In this video, we will be giving an in-depth look at ISL Online's administration, which consists of many useful features when it comes to managing the accounts, users, and its computer groups. Now, traditionally, a user is only able to see computers or computer groups that they have either added themselves or that have been shared with them. But, as an account owner or domain admin, we have access to the administration menu found in the sidebar. We are then directed to a Computers tab, where we have an overview of every single computer within the entire account. Now, if we click anywhere within the row of a particular computer, a menu will appear on the right side with an overview of all of its information. We can change the name of a computer by typing in a new name, and we can also add the computer to a group, or move the computer to another group. Before we confirm this change, we should keep in mind that if you move a computer to another group, the members of the previous group will lose access to it. Now, if a computer is assigned to a computer group, then the original computer owner is changed, and the computer will now belong to the computer group. Now, if we just want to change the computer owner to another user, we can do so using the Computer Owner menu, or by exiting this menu and clicking Assign to Me. We can also click on Share Computer to share access to the computer with individual users or a user group. For best practice, we recommend moving computers to computer groups and sharing them with entire user groups, which we will demonstrate shortly. Now, in the quick view, we can also assign tags to a computer, or even create new tags, for example, Windows 11. Below that, we can see some other info that's also shown in the table. Okay, so let's close the quick view and take a look at some other useful features. We can search for a computer by typing its name or alias in the search field right here. Or we can choose to filter the list by selecting which elements we would like to see or not see. For example, let's click on Add Filter, then select Tags from the dropdown, and select the tech tag. Once we click Save, the only computers we see are the ones assigned with the tech tag. Now, if we hover over the filter we've just added, we can modify it, toggle it on or off, or invert it, meaning that we will only see computers without the tech tag from now on. Now let's remove this filter, because another thing we can do is adjust the view of information to our desire by clicking on the Columns button. By default, we have alias, status, which computer group it's a part of, the computer's owner, users or user groups who have access to this computer, tags, and version of ISL Always On installed as viewable within the dashboard. However, we can also select the original computer name, the last time it was online, the platform, the IP address, and MAC address as options. Now, of course, we can select and unselect these options depending on the information we need. To change it back to the default view, we just click on Reset Columns. Another useful feature is exporting selected data to the CSV file for easy analysis or integration elsewhere. So let's move on to the Computer Groups tab, where we have an overview as well as access to all of the computer groups within the account. Once again, we have the same filtering and search options for the Computer Groups tab as we do for the Computers tab. Here, we can see how many computers are within a computer group, as well as who the group owner is. We can also click anywhere within the row of a computer group to open the Quick View menu, where we can then edit the name of a group, change the group owner, add computers to the group, or share the group with a user by simply clicking Add Member, and then selecting their username from the dropdown. Adding members to a computer group will grant them access to all of the computers within it. Additionally, if we click on the name of a computer group and then Members, we are directed to a page where we can set the connection permissions for each user or user group. For example, if the permission is set to connect only, the user or user group will only be able to connect to the computer, but not edit, delete, or execute any actions. That would require the permission be set to Computers Manager, which has all the permissions on the remote computer level, while Group Admin has all the rights of a computer manager, but can also edit the group name, share the group with additional members, or even delete that group. Now let's click on Administration and take a look at the Users tab. Let's say a new team member joins the company. As an admin, we click Create User, and from there, we can type in their name, for example, John, give them a username, an email address, assign them a password, and click Create User. If we click anywhere within the row of a user, we once again see a menu on the right side, this time with the option to change the name, email, and password. We can also change certain settings for this user, but we'll go more in depth on that later on in this video. Now, the main purpose of a user group is to combine users according to certain characteristics, for example, the same department, and then grant that group access to certain computers. Now, since we just created a new user, John, let's click on the row of the tech user group. Click Add User and select John from the drop-down. Now, John is not only part of the user group, but also automatically has access to all of the computer groups shared with tech. So let's just go to the Computers Group tab and select a group in particular. Since John is part of tech, he can access all of the computers in this group. Now, this also means that if one of the team members no longer needs access to the computer groups, they can simply be removed by opening the User Groups tab, clicking anywhere within the row of the user group, hovering over to the user, and clicking on the X button that appears. John is no longer part of the user group and no longer has access to the computer groups shown before. If we need to create a new user group, we just click on Create Group and type in a name, let's go with Sales. We can then add some users by clicking on the Add User button. Once we click Create Group, we can head back to the Computer Groups tab, click within the row of Computer Group, select Add Members, and then the newly created group. Now, every team member added to this user group presently and in the future will have access to all of the computer groups the sales team is a part of. The next list of options available to us can be found in the Audit tab. This provides an overview of every single event happening with the administration module, as well as when it happened, whether or not it succeeded, who initiated it, and the raw data of the event in question. For example, here's the previous event that we created, which was adding the sales user group to the sales computer group just a moment ago. The status of the event says that it was successful, and the data column tells us which user group and which computer group was affected. Now on to settings. This tab allows us to set limitations as well as other kinds of permissions onto the rest of the users within the ISL Online account. The Overview tab is a dynamically generated tab. It gathers all the settings that were changed in the past and now differ from their default value. It enables us to quickly find a setting that we've recently changed, so we can either change it further or revert it back to the default value. Each setting in the Overview tab has a reset button next to it. By clicking it, the value of the setting will be reverted to its default state, and the setting will be removed from the Overview tab. So let's just move on to General. As we can see here, the first option is Domain Admin. Enabling this would essentially allow every single user within the account to use the administration module we're demonstrating right now. However, in most cases, the better approach would be to head back to the Users tab. Click anywhere within the row of a user in particular, and click Edit Settings. From there, we have a very similar interface as we do in the Domain Settings Administration tab, but it only applies to this particular user. In the General tab of the user we've selected, we can then opt to set them as Domain Admin, someone who can help us deal with our administrative workload. Now, we want them as Domain Admin, and we do want them to be able to create, edit, and delete users. We do want them to be able to create, edit, and delete user groups. However, we do not want them to be able to access the Settings tab. In that case, we'll leave these two options enabled, and we'll set Edit Domain Settings to disabled. Now that we've configured the user to our liking as far as the domain administration goes, let's make sure to save our progress. Alright, on to some remote desktop options. So let's click on ISL Lite and scroll down to the Remote Desktop section. From here, we can choose what kind of permissions the user has when connecting to a computer. For example, if we would like the user to be able to view a computer, but not be able to control it, we set Control Remote Desktop to disabled and save our changes. For the time being, we are only setting permissions for this user. If we would like to apply these changes to every single user within the account, we would simply need to click on the administration and go back to the domain settings. Now that we're here, let's move on to unattended access permissions by clicking on the ISL Always On tab. Here, we can choose whether or not we would like our users to be able to add or connect to unattended computers. Now, when setting these options, we usually have two versions of disabled. One of them allows override on a lower level, meaning that it can be changed and overridden on a user level. The second one denies override, meaning that the setting will be locked on a domain level and it cannot be changed on a user-by-user basis. Now that we have decided we want the users in our domain to have unattended access, we can also choose how many computers we want our users to be able to add or own. If we want them to have only, say, 5 computers, we simply type 5 in the max number of owned connections field and click Save. On to the most important thing, security. We do not want our users to be able to log in without using two-factor authentication, so let's disable that. We also do not want our users to be able to avoid providing two-factor authentication by clicking on Don't Ask Me Again on this device. So let's disable that as well and click Save. If we scroll down a little bit, we have some password options. For example, we can ensure our users are setting strong passwords by enforcing a minimum number of password characters, a list of special characters that are allowed, how many of those special characters are required for their password to be accepted, as well as a minimum number of uppercase, lowercase, and digit characters. Remember, all of these settings can be set at the domain level or on a user-by-user basis. The administration is rich in functionality, and a more in-depth overview of each functionality can be found in our manuals, or just by giving it a try by logging into islonline.com and clicking on Administration on the left side of the screen. We hope you found this useful. Any questions? Get in touch by clicking on our live chat. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.